Well, hello to all my Facebook family, Facebook friends. Welcome to another edition of Parks Investigative Live. I'm your host, Investigative Parks. Guys, as I tell you every week, go ahead and share this live now, tag a friend. You don't want to miss tonight's program. We're going to be dealing with relationship and family counseling. We got two profound counselors with many, many years of experience in the area of counseling and therapy and all that good stuff that goes along with counseling people. So you don't want to miss tonight's program. Two distinguished guests, Dr. Brian Mosley, who's been in the business for many years, also Dr. Robert Ray, Robert J. Ray. Many of you locals may know Mr. Ray, and he's going to be sitting down talking with us as well, dealing with relationships. So, guys, you don't want to miss tonight's program. And without delaying any further, I'm going to bring in my first guest. He's none other than Dr. Brian Mosley. Welcome to the program, Mr. Mosley.
Well, like I always say to everybody, how in the world are you?
Great, great. And my second guest, none other than Mr. Dr. Robert J. Ray. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, and I'm excited to be here. And I think we're going to enlighten a lot of people on your watching your show today about relationships, because this is one thing in our race that's really low down on the scale.
Okay, good. Well, I tell you what, guys, we're going to go ahead and not waste any time and get started in tonight's program. Dr. Brian Mosley, would you do the honors and open us up in prayer, please, sir?
Lord, we thank you for this time of fellowship, this time of sharing your word through remote. Bless your people, bless the host and our dear brother. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mosley. Mr. Ray, I'm gonna let you go up first and reintroduce yourself and give a little background, and let's get started.
Okay, I've been in the counseling and therapy field for over 45 years or more, and my mentor he was like a similitude of Jesus Christ, and he had a lot of disciples, and he made me his protege for some reason or another, and he taught me this process, and it's a professional development process, and it really just makes you successful at whatever you want to be successful in. And one thing for sure, you'll be successful at relationships and knowing how to be open and direct in those. And then you'll learn how to do much more than you thought you could do. A lot of people didn't think they could do things. I was one of those. I didn't think I could ever get up and teach individuals how to live their life and do counseling and therapy with doctors and lawyers and these type of high degree people. But if you know things that they don't know, and you know the things that can help them in their life, hey, they appreciate it. A lot of them resented me in the beginning, but in the end, they really was pulled to me, and they treated, and they was warm toward me in the end. So my process, we deal mostly with feelings and thoughts and behavior clarification, and that's the way we get people started in being successful. And I've been successful in that for over 40 years. And I did it out at the prison for 11 years, and straightened out a lot of those guys. You know, like Frederick Douglass said, it's best to train up a child in the way he should go than to try to fix a broken man. And that is so true. It's hard to fix people when they're broke. And that's why it's good to start your relationship out on a solid foundation. And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ray. Dr. Mosley, if you would reintroduce yourself and give a little synopsis.
I am a servant, and I have been serving people for the last 51 years. And it has taken me all the way to the continent of Africa and the UK and back. And so that's basically been my life, serving. And so I concur with Dr. Ray. It is a lifetime of giving and sharing and helping people to see themselves, and not only to see themselves, but help them or assist them in helping them to help themselves. And so that is basically and primarily what we have been doing over the years.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, if you're just now tuning in, you're watching Parks Investigative Live. You don't want to miss tonight's program. We're going to be dealing with relationships and counseling, family counseling. We have two experienced therapists that's on the broadcast tonight, Dr. Brian Jefferson Mosley and Dr. Robert Ray, a local counselor here in Meridian. And Dr. Brian Mosley is broadcasting out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Am I correct, Doc? Are you at home?
Well, I'm going to tell you, if I had a shoe or a sneaker, I would do what they did to President Bush when he went to Iraq, and I'd throw it at you. I'm just in an ethereal space right now.
Well, you know, that guy that threw that shoe did about 6 years in federal prison, so please don't.
Well, you know what he did? He did federal prison, but he ended up making a fortune on the other side because, you know, there are people that side with people like him. But, you know, yeah, I'm in the ethereal space, and this is where I am. This is where we are since the beginning of COVID, and we're still not out of the woods. 17 months later, we're now dealing with a variant that is much more infectious. And so right now, what we don't want to do is throw caution to the wind.
That's right. That's right. All right. And before we start tonight's program, I definitely want to give a shout out to my background producer, the one who kind of keeps the back end going. And I'm going to bring her on real quick. Mr. Cara, thank you so much for being in the background. You don't get much attention on social media, but you keep the program running. So we really appreciate that. Any quick words you want to say or any discussion on tonight's program, if you unmute your mic?
Hey, everyone. I just want to say hey. I'm really looking forward to this discussion to see what you gentlemen and everyone else has to say. This is going to be very interesting.
All right. Well,
try to make it
So now,
I say we're going to try to make it that way. It's going to be interesting because once you understand how relationships should go and how a lot of them do go, and that's why they don't ever be successful, is because they don't know some basic things that they should bring to the relationship and should be acting on in the relationship. So we'll have your female point of view after you hear what we males going to be saying about it.
That's right.
Sounds good to me. Bye.
Right. Thank you so much, TK. We'll see you in the backstage. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get started with tonight's program and topic: relationship and family counseling. We know, especially during the pandemic, we've been seeing an increase in domestic issues, and some of that's contributed to people being at home, sheltering in place. More to say, and of course now it's a little bit more freedom than it was just a year ago. But still, we're still in the midst of a very serious virus, still with the Delta variant and others that's marking behind, and we're seeing an increase in issues amongst couples, family members. So, Mr. Ray, I'm gonna bring you up first.
Okay.
Since you have a business here, are you seeing more clients since the pandemic?
Really, I'm getting a lot of, not seeing more clients, but I'm getting a lot of questions asked me about their relationships and what should they do when their mate is coming in on them with some anger and some sadness about being together so often. And far as female and male relationship, those are the one that you really have to look into and really have to do a lot of observing about. Now, the way that I do counseling on this scale is I do individual counseling with the male and I do individual counseling with the female, and then I bring them together and do the marriage counseling type deal. done that for many, many years. And one thing that my process does, it either get the individual together and in harmony, or it gets them away from each other, which is good a lot of times. And the way you do this is you find out, why did you two people hook up in the first place? A lot of times it's a sexual thing. And if you get on a relationship based on a sexual contact and sexual pull to, then that's not going to last. Especially when things like this happen, like when a pandemic, a crisis come in on it, it doesn't hold up. But if you build your relationship, a female relationship, first you want to become friends, and then you want to know what each other's affections are. You want to know what the female's affection is. What does she love? What kind of woman is she? Because a lot of these females, some of them are whores, and some are courtesans, and some are sirens. And then you got ones that's like maidens, some are virgins even. And once you understand what you're dealing with, what type of female you're dealing with, then you can almost share with her whether her life is going to be successful or not, or whether her relationship is going to be successful. And if a male if he's just a person who loves the sex, and most of them do, that's what most males do. But when you meet that special female, you're supposed to settle down to that one sex. And then you ain't never supposed to have any sex with any other females after that. But today, it's just running rampant. The love of sex is running rampant. And that's why so many relationships end up in divorce court, or just end up in disasters, because men, they think they're supposed to be able to have the privilege to have more than one sex, like the Muslims do. The Muslims wrote that into their religion so that they could have more sex, but it's not. It shouldn't be that way. It should be one male and one female. And unless you find out what their affections are and what you are looking for, then you're going to have a lot of trouble in a lot of these relationships.
Okay. All right. I just want to point out, I did get a question inbox to me. It says, what is the number one problem that you see in relationships? So, I mean, you touched on some of that. I'll let you answer that question when we get to the next one.
I would say the number one thing is the cheating in the line. The line fits right in with cheating, because you have to be a liar in order to cheat. When your mate asks you where you been, and if you've been out with another female or another male, then you're not going to tell her the truth about it. You're going to lie. So lying really is the flame of cheating, and this is what most relationships end up doing. And it's really the male who causes this, and I'm going to tell you why. Because most females, when they fall in love with a man, they only want to have sex with that one man. That's it. That's all they wanted. As long as he comes home, as long as he works the job, bring home the bacon, so to speak, and make love to her only. That's what she gonna do. She gonna make love to him only. But if he goes out and starts cheating on her, and she's gonna find out, because females, they have things inside them planted by the infinite man, where they can tell if they man have been with another woman. It'll be a smell on him. It'll be a look in his eye. A lot of other things they can do. But a lot of times they don't confront him about it. But they just wait and bide their time. Now, when this goes on for so long, this kind of kills and kills the flame of love that woman had for that man, and he keeps dousing water on that flame of love until he finally dashed the last bucket on there, and all the love she had for him is gone out. Now she's going to start going out cheating too, and a lot of times it's going to be with one of his best friends. So that's what I say the number one reason for failure in relationships now.
Wow, I tell you what, I bet you've had some interesting closed door conversations, but we ain't gonna touch that. Dr. Brian Mosley, you heard what Dr. Ray had to say. Do you agree, or do you want to touch on, elaborate some more?
Yeah, I think that one of the one of the biggest challenges. But let me begin by saying that relationships, all human relationships, should begin vertical. And that individual, their relationship with God, and then with oneself. So it should be vertical, and then with oneself, and then horizontal. Relationships are built over time. Human relationships, male and female relationships, relationships with parents and their children are built over time, over a period of time. And I know that most of them, most of our relationships, or the beginning of our relationship, is not as pure as it should be, simply because of the sin nature and because of our, the deprivation, and because of the evil. However, let me say that if you're going to have a good relationship over time, then you have to put in the work, because having relationships with one another is not an automatic, and you can't second guess it. So you first got to know who you are. And as the doctor said, and I say too, there is a word that I want to use, and it's called trust. When you start the relationship and begin the relationship with trust for one another, but first you have to trust yourself. Then you can build on that. And a lot of people get into relationships, like the doctor said, and they go in physical. And there comes a time when those relationships that are physical begin to wax and wane. And because they did not bring anything into it besides, because, let's be very clear. Sex is just a bonus. And so if you're not going to come into the relationship knowing first who you are, what your needs are, if you don't come in there with a sense of wholeness, then this is going to be a problem ongoing. So yes, we have to begin our relationships right. And then I'll go ahead on and say this. Male and female relationships are going to determine where, when we have children, where these children are going to be in their life. So, you've got gentlemen that are, they're adults, but they act out as children. You've got females that do the same thing. And the challenge is we need to work on those things before we get into a relationship with one another. Because if not, we're going to stymie our relationship together.
All right. Thank you for that, Dr. Mosley. Mr. Ray, I saw you nodding your head. Were you in agreement?
Yeah, because I was really pulled to what he's saying about the trust in the relationship. You got to have the trust. And when you go in a relationship, you have to let that other the individual know that, hey, I'm not going to cheat on you. I'm not going to lie to you about anything, even if it hurts your feelings. And the maturity of it. That's why it's so sad when so many of these young guys, and just because they are feeling their oats and they want to have sex with these young girls and they get them pregnant. I've asked a lot of these young girls, I say, how do you think this individual is going to take care of you and a child when he can't take care of himself? What's he going to do? He can't hardly finish high school. How is he going to get a job? And why would you lay down and let him put a seed in you that's gonna mess your life up for the rest of your life, because you'll never be able to get away from this little individual that he's put inside you. And they don't have any maturity. Even when they go to try to do an adult thing. I've seen so many of them, 17, 18 years old, and the female, she'll get an apartment because she can get one because the government takes care of them and the offspring. They give them money, they can get them a house to live in. Then she invites him in. But the first sign of trouble, the first arguments, the first time she say, put him out, you get out, and I see it all the time. And he's not mature enough to understand that he has to do more. He has to step up to the plate and do more. He has to get some counseling on his own from an older adult, older family member, to see how should I handle these issues. But they won't do that. They're too proud to do it. They want to run their own household, but they don't have the maturity to do these things. So all they do, and the next thing you know, they got another baby on the way. And this is just complicating things, and they will never get out from under this type of pressure. And usually end up one going this way and one going the other way, and these kids growing up without a father.
All right, appreciate your response. I do got another question that I want to bring.
And before you with the question, and I totally agree with what the doctor is saying, and I want to add that although sex, and I said earlier, is a bonus, sex is not a relationship. However, and although sex is a force, it is not enough to stay together, just having sex. Now, I'm coming from a different angle when I say this. Sex and intimacy are two different things, and they shouldn't be confused. And they should be in the confines of marriage. Now, when we're talking to people that are just regular people, not church people, I share with them, they ask me, what do you think about our relationship? And I ask them, are they married? And the first thing they'll say, yeah, we are married, but it's non-traditional. And they asked me what I think about it. I said, well, the Bible talks about marriage being honorable, and that there should be some kind of, agreement and signing off, and also a legal signature and all that, and it's hard for the unsaved world to understand how that works when they've never had that background. See, a lot of things that we see going on today within couples, they've had to basically learn stuff on their own, where some people have had the privilege of growing up in a home with two parents, or growing up in a home where certain ethics are taught and lived in front of them. And so when we're dealing with people now, people are just living like they've been doing it over years, but people are more open and they live together. And they're basically doing that because that's all they know. And so I can give up the time for someone else. When you talk about relationship and then you're talking about marriage, it's important that we differentiate, and it's important that we understand the relationship piece. So there might be people out there that are saying, well, I have no intention on getting married right now. And that's fine. But you should build the kind of relationship so that when it's time to be married and time to live together, you're prepared, because we go into stuff often unprepared. And a lot of people live their life unprepared. And so that's why they fall into all these, all these problems that they have.
Okay, very good point, Dr. Mosley. And then I'll tell you what, guys, we're going to take a quick break because we're not going to be on long. We're halfway through the program. I know you guys' schedule real busy. I'm going to take just a quick break. We're going to pause for a short commercial. We'll be back. And I got a question for you, Dr. Mosley, that was submitted by a viewer. So, guys, if you would stand by as we take this 30-second break, we'll be back with you shortly. All right, guys, if you're just now joining us, I'm your host, Investigator Parks. You're watching Parks Investigative Live. We're dealing with the topic of relationship and family counseling. We have two, as I said earlier, profound experienced counselors on the program tonight. Dr. Mosley, who's also in the ministry, has traveled the world over the last several decades. Let me just say that. And he dealt with a lot of different individuals or couples or family members that had to counsel over the years. I've had the privilege of being around him doing some of those encounters. And Mr. Ray, who I've just now begun to learn personally and actually knew of him many years ago, didn't even know he was a former neighbor of a family member of mine, but glad we got a chance to connect. I have a question for you too, Mr. Ray, but let me go to the first question that was submitted to Dr. Mosley. And that question is this, and I'll bring you up front. It says, Dr. Mosley, what would be a principle or principles to live by for a marriage or relationship? Let me know if I need to read that again.
No, again, I go back to trust. This is a conversation that you can't exhaust it. And I just want to say that, let me answer the question. Of course, there's a lot of principles. I think at the beginning of the conversation, Dr. Ray talked about the foundation. And within that foundation, there must be mutual trust and there must be a connection. There are cognitive differences between men and women. And so it's important that they understand themselves before they even enter into something as serious as marriage. So they should build this relationship, and it should be built on a foundation of trust and love. Now, let me say this, and then I'll give it up. We are in the, and I'm speaking to a lot of people right now, and that is, we're in an era of, I call the hookup era. The culture over time, young people are we know they're very sexually active. And when they're young like this, they're not usually looking for a mate. And what used to be mate seeking or a mate seeking ritual has shifted to hookups, sexual encounters with no strings attached. And a lot of times on the male part, because he is so at times obsessed with vagina, he wakes up thinking vagina. He goes to bed thinking vagina. Whatever he does, it is almost as though that's the goal. Not realizing that if he doesn't understand what he's doing, the woman doesn't only have a vagina. She has feelings, she has a mind, she has so many other wonderful things about her. So if you don't build on those things and experience other things that she has to offer you, your life will be absorbed with vagina without any self-control. And the woman or the women will become frustrated. And that's, so I'm saying this because this is where we are in the culture among a lot of our males. And the doctor said earlier that men tend to, and I'm listening to him and I'm saying, I agree. Men are basically from boys to men, from adolescents to teenagers, and then become legal men, tend to, they're a lot of times groomed and encouraged to have more. A guy will say to another guy, how many girlfriends you got? Now, parents also encourage this out of their males, and out of their females, they say, shh. And see, that's a big problem, because and the doctor will tell you, when the girl gets the guy or when they get together, he still has this in the back of his mind that I'm going to have more than one. And that's a real problem, because we do it with our little boys. We do it to them. And then when they get older, then we want to go after them and say, you shouldn't have a wife and a sweetheart, or you shouldn't have more than one girlfriend. But when they were kids, you encouraged the boys. So there's a book, Dr. Ray, you probably know about this. There's a book for the boys and a book for the girls.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Appreciate that response there. Dr. Mosley, I'm glad I had my mic mute, because you said something that made me laugh a little bit. So I appreciate that.
Were you talking about the vagina?
Yeah, that was funny.
but that's, Dr. Ray will tell you, in most of the males, that's in their makeup. That's in their mind. And they can't get anything done because it's between that.
Is that on your mind, Mr. Ray?
Yeah, that's what they grow up doing. Everything is geared to you getting to the zone.
Right.
And this is what all young men, I hear them talking now, and they don't even know I'll be listening, but I listen, and they be talking about how fine she is. She will give it up. And see, and this is all that they are thinking about at this time. And I think the question that I see up on thing is when couples come to me, do they respect each other? Now, it depends. I tell a lot of individuals that I've counseled. Like one couple I counseled, she was a school teacher. She had degrees, and he was a cab driver. And I was trying to question her about, how did you get hooked up with this guy? Well, somebody introduced us, and we went out and we started having an affair, and then we got married. But I say, you don't understand that this cab driver, all he's going to be talking about is the people he pick up, his cab fares and where he went. And I said, you, on the other hand, you want to speak about the arts and things that's educational wise, and you might want to visit the museums and concerts and stuff like this. And he's not going to be interested. And she agreed that he don't like to go anywhere with her friends. And this is why I tell people, you should look at what station you in. And if you are up here, and if you are educated and got degrees, you don't have any business trying to get hooked up with an individual that's down here that's not educated wise, or not even trying to go that way. So
is that considered unequally yoked in a sense?
Yes, it's unequal. That's right. And then he's going to still be trying to be the leader in the family, but he don't have the expertise, the education to pull this off. And then when she talks to him about what he should be doing and how he can do better, he resents that. And the only thing that they really had in common is that she said he was good in bed. And seeing so many females, they get hooked up with these guys because, you know, especially black men, they think they studs, they really good in bed. And when they get a female and then they enjoy the sex thing, then they sacrifice a lot of stuff in their life just to have this guy to make love and have sex with them and give them a good thrill. But I tell all little girls, I say, as long as you got your virginity, you are the most valuable person on the planet. There's no other individual more valuable than you, as long as you have your virginity. But once you lose your virginity, then you're not valuable anymore. Yeah. Nobody, well, and she's been had already. But as long as you got your virginity, I don't care if you're behind from the projects, across the tracks, I don't care where you from. If you keep your virginity and go through high school, and hey, everybody's eyes are going to be on you. And the prince with the golden apples will be looking for a female like you. But now, after they have sex, then they usually just become baby mamas, and that's the way they go through life, which is real sad.
All right, I got a question specifically for you, Dr. Ray. It says, Mr. Ray, do the couples that come to see you, do they respect each other?
Well, some do and some don't. It's just according to what your intelligence ratio is. And some men don't respect their females because, just like the doctor said, is that they don't have the respect for them because they don't value them. They don't value their, like a female, she has a lot of affection thing. And if her manners is that of a wife and a chaste wife and a good mother, then that's what a man is looking for in a woman. But if he don't value that, and if he don't understand that he should value that, then no, he's not going to respect her. The only ones that they respect is the ones that have some money, or can go out and hustle up on some money, are the ones that will turn them off when they be wanting sex and put them down. And like I used to tell the women out at the prison when I was there, they would say, well, Mr. Ray, how come my man go out and cheat? And the first thing I ask him, I'll say, well, how often do you give him sex? I say, do you give it to him every time he wants it? And yeah, I give it to him every time he wants it. I say, well, that's your mistake. I say, if he asks you, out of 10 times he asks you, you should refuse him 5 or 6 or 7 times. Oh, wow. Then that keeps his interest. That keeps his interest on him. And then he know that if she's not giving it to me like that, then I better stay around here. I better keep an eye on her and watch and see what she's doing. But yeah, once you become so common to your husband, after a while he's not gonna even want to have sex with you. And then they be wondering why. And this is the reason why, is that they haven't been taught. Their mother should have taught them this in the beginning, but they don't. The more if you giving your husband sex every time he wants it, pretty soon he's going to be out looking for something that's new.
Now, I'm looking at your shirt too, and I like it. Is that the genuine truth that you just said?
That's the genuine truth. That's exactly right. And that's my trademark. I'm the only one that can use that.
That's right. All right, Dr. Mosley, do you agree with what Dr. Ray said?
I just want to add that parents have to do a better job with their boys and girls. Something that was said at the beginning of the program concerning Frederick Douglass was very true. When you're dealing with a now adult, the old saying is it's hard to train an old dog new tricks or whatever. I think that we ought to put our focus also on young people and children and really impact their lives and teach them and share with them what life is all about and what it means to be whole, a whole person, WHOLE. Because if not, later on, they're not going to be able to deal with the challenges in life. A lot of brothers are in over their head with certain women. First of all, like the doctor said, that academically, the woman that they're attracted to or whatever, they're so far beyond this guy. And if he has any insecurities, it's going to be a problem. See, we bring things to the table. That's why I tell people, do your due diligence. Because if you don't, it's like anything else. You're bringing something to the table. And so sex, again, let me say this again, sex is a bonus. Sex does not sustain a relationship, a bona fide relationship. Because if that's the case, then, because I hear people saying, you know, the sex is good. Of course. So the sex is good and whatever, whatever. But the sex has not stopped him from going out and having relation or having some kind of contact with other women. It hasn't, and it's not going to do that. If you think that because you have this man by the balls and he's not, listen, his own mother couldn't keep him from running around. And so you're just another woman. And you can base a lot of things on how a boy and a teenager and an adult man, what their relationship was with their mom will basically be the relationship they have with another woman. Women are not a piece of meat. Women, their price is above ruby. And once a man understands that we are doing this together, we're not just going to pacify, but we're going to satisfy each other in every aspect of our life. And this is, like I said, this is a subject that you can go on and on with. But I think that we need to work on our young people. They're so, you know, this is why I discourage young people from getting married early, because you're so occupied with your books, your school, with all of these other things and your friends. You don't have time to spend on a relationship, to build a relationship. First of all, you don't even know who you are. You know, a boy wakes up in the morning, he's like a piece of wood. He doesn't even understand what's going on. And no one has taught him, or no one's to say to him, look, this is the situation. And the same with girls. They need their mom, or they need a mother, they need a female to say to them, look, you're going through a change in your life. You know, the little things. Because if you don't get it in the beginning, you're going to have problems later on. Okay. And then you're going to allow people to violate you. See, and this is why we have what we have going on in our society. We got crazy people. They take advantage of people that are innocent, that are looking for help, and they're not looking to be violated. And so this is very important. Don't, if you men out there have daughters, please share with your daughters what a mature man is. And how you do that is how you relate to your mother and your sister. If you're cursing and fighting with your own mother, hey, girl, you're setting yourself up. And guy, let me tell you out there, you need to be selective when you're talking to a female, because every girl that you date is not marriage material. Okay, so that's. I hope that helps somebody too.
All right, well said, Dr. Mosley. You put that in layman terms, as I would say. Dr. Ray, you're nodding your head. Sound like you agreed to that as well.
I was just really pulled to the doctor when he was talking about the immaturity that these young men come out of their family with. And I met so many at the prison that didn't have a father. They only had a mother. And if they came out of that type of family unit, then you can't expect them to understand and know how to behave like a mature, rational man would behave in a relationship. And that's why so many of them fail. They think long as they can have sex and they can make a few dollars to go throw in there. Some of those guys out there say they didn't even know who their fathers were. And when they come out and said when they got older, like a teenager, and their father would call them up and want to talk to them, he said he would get on the phone and say, hey, dude, hey, you need to bring some money over here, dude. See, they don't even recognize the father figure. Right. And if they don't have a father figure, then they don't even understand what being a father is really going to entail. And they're not going to make good fathers, which they do not make good fathers, because they end up like where I had them. They end up in prison. They don't even know what it means to be a good husband, a good provider. And then the female, she doesn't understand because she hadn't been taught what to expect from a male. And she gets victimized, like the doctor said. She get abused. And then she end up just being a baby machine. And then she finally discovers, say, hey, look, I'm gonna take these kids, get my own place, get me a job at McDonald's or wherever, and take the food stamps I have and try to make a life for me and my family. But that doesn't work, because you need to have rational and discipline, and along with love in the family. And most females, they can only give love. They can't give discipline. Once their sons get to be 13 and 14, really before that, but specifically when they get to be teenagers, then she can't discipline him anymore. He does what he want to do. He don't come in when she tell him to come in. He'll go hang out with his friends, come in when he get ready. She can't do anything. She can't whip him. But all she can do is try to love him, and that's not enough. And that's why so many of them end up with babies and in prison.
And you know what, Dr. Ray, I think a lot of our young people and a lot of the adults, they get set up for failure because they don't have. There are words that you use today that are very important. Everybody needs to understand: value, discover, and discipline, and sacrifice. See, most men understand this. And for you out there, when God created man, he's the only one with two heads, the one on his shoulder and the one between his legs. Now, the difference between the two heads, one has a brain that's not being used to its capacity. And then the one between his legs, it has a mouth and spits, but it don't have any brains.
Yeah, I knew that would get a laugh out of you, investigator. But that is so true. I mean, it's just about everything you see on TV now is geared to young people having sex. Yeah, and like the doctor said, they're not ready for this. They're not ready to be. They're not mature enough to even think about what does this entail. And so they just hit this one and then go hit that one and hit this one. Then they might leave a little offspring over there. And this is the way that they go through life. And they never really get the joy and the happiness that you can bring with having one woman as your wife and the one you love and your best friend. And I miss that because I had watched my grandfather and them and how he came up with his wife and stuff like this, but he cheated and this is what I was around. But I knew that it was going to be a woman out there for me to try to love that one woman, in which I did. But me being an alcoholic, I'm out there doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and before I know it, all of that love she had for me was gone with the wind. But we need to be able to teach these guys, and that's what I do when I did the training with these guys out at the prison. I told them, look, you gotta find the one female that's going to be your best friend and going to be your lover and going to be your wife. You're going to have to keep her happy, and by doing that, you be an example. And just like the doctor said, you have to have a sacrifice, and that means sacrificing them old deadbeat friends that you call friends that you want to hang out with. I regret all of that hanging out with them instead of coming home to my wife. I'm out at the bowling, out there gambling and drinking with these guys. But that was before I became rational. And I understand why these guys do it, because they don't know any better. And unless we, like the doc said, unless we can train them to know better and to do better, then we're going to continue to have this type of destructive behavior going throughout the black race forever.
And that's basically the breakdown. The breakdown is a lack of training. And I want to say to you out there that are listening to us, an individual cannot rise above their exposure. So you have all these expectations, but it's based on what you expose. It's like a kid that's never gone to a museum. He's standing in the middle of the museum looking all around, and somebody walks over to him and says, "Hey, you going along? Hey, come on, he's well, I've never seen nothing like this." He's amazed. Parents need to expose their children to the good things. They need to take their children to the beach. They need to take their children to the game. Expose them to good things. The library. You know, I often say readers are leaders. And some of us, we put the iPad in our kids' hand, but they don't need an iPad. They need to know how to read. They need to know how to, as the doctor said, he kept saying, rational, reasoning, knowing how to develop your cognitive skills so that you can bring something to the table and not just look to see this, not just look to bang, 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 bang. See, that's the thing in young people. Our young men, bang, 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 bang. Did you bang her today? Bang, 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 bang. You banged her, and then an hour later, you don't even talk to her, or 2 hours later. And so this starts early on. It starts early on. And you can't leave children to their own. As the doctor said, he worked in the prison system, and I know that's an experience alone that I think more brothers need to experience, not being incarcerated, but at least knowing what happens in the system, you see, so that they can better talk to people and not talk at them and not be combative with them, but say to them, you know what, you made a mistake. Now you're getting an opportunity to get out. You paid your debt. You're going out, but you've learned something while you're here. You've learned, and Malcolm X learned the dictionary. Okay, who was more brilliant than him? There's so many things that you can learn while being in. We learned a lot of things during COVID that we didn't know before about each other. So anyway, but I think it's a great conversation.
All right, real quick, guys, we got about 4 more minutes. So I'm gonna give you guys a minute and a half apiece to just touch on. It was questions were sent to me through my cell phone. It says, have those guests you have on tonight speak on blended families quickly. So if you would, a minute and a half, Dr. Moses, I'll start with you. Let's touch on blended families real quick.
When you say blended families, what are you talking about?
Well, that's a good question because that's the way it came to my cell phone. Have them speak on blended families. So let me see if I can text back. I'll come to Robert Ray. Are you familiar with?
A blended family is hard. That's why so many you see so many individuals say, "Well, he shot his brother. Well, he beat his sister. He did this to her. He did that. He won't." I have never seen so many siblings that hate each other like they do. I said, me and my brother, we didn't have the same father, but we couldn't have been more loving to each other all the way through life. And he was my best friend in time that the infinite man gave me, even though we didn't have the same father. And then each of those blended kids have been passed down the DNA from their fathers. If they was gamblers, if they was whoremongers, if they was Christian, if they had good and truth in them, they passed that down to them, but they also passed all their evils and falses down. And you get all of these things in a blended family, that's not going to be anything but chaos is going to be in there, unless you can get someone in there to show them that they should love each other, because they have been brought together to be loving sisters and brothers. And that's what they should be to each other, instead of deadly enemies.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. They did text back Dr. Mosley, and I guess they was more referring to merging two families together. If you want
Okay.
to
When you merge two families together, it's interesting. Again, a lot of things have to be a lot of things have to be taken into consideration. It's not the Brady Bunch, and it's certainly moving on up and all that. No, a lot of things have to be discussed and shared, and the families have to be authentic, and they have to have full disclosure. And you don't do something like that overnight and over time. I mean, you know, over time, you begin, like where you use the term blend, you merge the families. And there's a lot of merging. And what happens in a lot of this situation is sometimes kids get lost in the shuffle, okay, for various reasons. There's been a lot of merging of families. Some do it well and some don't do it well. Some kids feel like he'll never be my father or she'll never be my mother. And it takes work and it takes time. Nothing is automatic. Nothing is automatic. Nothing happens overnight. It takes time. You got to get to know them. They got to get to know you. But I think it's important that women, if you have a daughter, you have a son, and you're involved with some guy that's not their parent, I think that you ought to first consider them. And you need to say, you know, I need to wait. I need to wait because it could be a disaster. Let that man or that guy build a relationship with my daughter and my son. So it's nothing, it's more than it's more than a notion. It takes time and it takes sacrifice. It takes loving and understanding, because you got guys that will say, I don't want that dude in this house no more. Well, I don't want that guy around here. Well, first of all, it's her house and it's his house. You came in through the door of the woman. See? So you didn't have, you're moving. And see, women, I always challenge women. You know, first of all, you don't want to move a man in your house. If he's so great and he's all of that, then let him provide and let him show you by you, wherever he's at. What if it's his apartment, his house, start there. But you bringing him in there and you haven't even prepared your children. You know, so there's a lot to this. There's a whole lot to this. And I pray when you start merging families and your family ain't together already, that's like the gentleman said, the doctor said, you're setting yourself up for a disaster, and it's going to be problems, and it's going to be problematic. And we have kids now that are just like the prodigal son. He left home on his own. He left home. And somebody asked me one time, you know, in that story, why didn't his dad didn't stop him? He wasn't going to stop him because he decided to go. And so he left. He left on his own. And it was only when he came to himself and realized, look, I was doing better back at home. And so a lot of kids are lost. A lot of people are lost. And we've got a time now and a challenge now to find these people.
All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the program. A very interesting topic tonight. A great discussion. I want to personally thank both of you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule. Dr. Mosley, you know, it's real hard to get you to come on. I know your schedule is full just as well as Dr. Ray. but certainly appreciate this. I hope it was beneficial, a blessing to some of the viewers and some of the potential viewers to watch this in the future. Again, this video will remain up on the Parks Investigative Live page. Feel free, if you have not already, to like this page. And I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds for a final thought. And Dr. Mosley, I'll let you take us out in prayer. So please stand by for that. So, Mr. Ray, you got 30 seconds. Give us a final thoughts. And
yeah, I'm just anxious to share with you that, hey, we've got to get away from the Willie Lynch syndrome. That is, he just devastated the black race by having them to hate each other. We got to become more loving. And the only way you can do that is you have to become more rational and understand why you should be loving each other and why you should be loving the neighbor. The infinite man told you to do that, but it's so materialistic today in the world, all about money and power. And therefore, the children and the kids coming up, they see that in the adults, so they follow in those footsteps. But that's all I got to share with you, and I'm anxious to move on.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Ray. Dr. Mosley, 30 seconds, final thoughts.
Love yourself.
All right, you heard it right there from Dr. Mosley and Dr. Robert Ray. Guys, again, appreciate you for coming on. Such a pleasure to have two distinguished guests, special guests, to join the program. And let's do this more often if we can. Let's try to pull together or brainstorm and come up with another time to go into a part 2 of this series. Believe it or not, this is program is very beneficial to some couples who are struggling or going through some issues. And maybe something one of you guys said may set off a light, and it may open up the Holy Bible or open up some type of marriage book, or marriage or counseling book, or may even seek counseling. And there are many, many books out there on the market. Dr. Mosley, I know you can recommend several, as well as yourself, Dr. Ray. But I do want to give a shout out to a friend who's been on the program before, he was out of Austin, Texas. I think he relocated somewhere around the Dallas area. But his name is Richard E. Helen. He's actually a product of Meridian, Mississippi, but of course, during his military years and retirement, he's moved on to Texas. But he written a book here, and I'm going to post it here. If you can see it, it says Marriage and Relationship Success. And I'll try to get it where you can see it, by Richard E. Helen. Now, this is only one of several books out there on the market that you guys can get, but he's a good friend of mine. So this book is on Amazon. Again, Marriage and Relationship Success. He's living the lifestyle that he's preaching, and I don't know him personally. So guys, if you would, if you're not interested in this particular book, there are several books that I'm sure, again, Dr. Ray, Dr. Mosley would refer you to for some type of counseling or to just help you be a better person, whether it's marriage or relationship. All right, guys, I promise to stay on the hour. We're just 5 minutes over that timeline, so we're going to go ahead and end it on that note. Dr. Mosley, if you would, take us out in prayer. And after prayer, Mr. Ray, stay in the back screen for just a quick intake on tonight's discussion.
Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor. Amen.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mosley. Guys, again, thank you for tuning in to Parks Investigative Live. My two guests stand by, and we'll end tonight's program on this note.